What's up everybody, thanks for checking out the channel. On today's video I'm going to show you how to install some trim around a door. I'm installing it on a pocket door today, but it works for both a regular swing door or a pocket door. So if you liked the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. More videos to come. Anyway, let's get into it. Roll the intro. So this doorway is basically worst case scenario for casing. We're going to have to use short brad nails on this side because we've got the pocket door here. If we use full length brad nails, 1.25 inches, you'd probably nail your door open or nail your door shut, or at very least be scratching the surface of the door whenever the door went into the pocket. So we're going to want to use some short brad nails on this side, and on this side here we're going to have to rip it because we're up against the wall. So not a big deal, but a few extra steps. And when I put my casing together, I like to use cyanoacrylate, so it's super glue. I find it helps a lot with the miters. It keeps them nice and tight, and yeah, I'll walk you through it. So when I'm measuring for my casing, I like to leave a 3/16 inch gap between the edge of the casing and the door jamb. And the reason being is, especially for a hinge door, you don't want your hinges rubbing on the casing and stuff like that, because then you'll get squeaks and it just creates more problems. So 3/16 in my opinion is the magic number on both sides. So I'm going to walk you through how I measure my pieces, and then we'll go out and measure them. So on the top edge here, what I like to do is I mark 3/16. So I'm measuring from, in this part, the 1/2 inch mark, and I'm counting 1, 2, 3/16 over, which brings me right there. I'm going to do the same on this part here, on the horizontal part. And I'll do the same on the other side. I'm doing the same on the other side. And the same on the top. I'm going to measure mark to mark. So I'm measuring from this point here to this point there. I like to measure from a number, and I'll subtract that number. So I'm on the 1 inch mark, and I'm 24.5 inches on the other side. So my casing would be 23.5. And that's inside miter to inside miter. Next thing we'll do is, on this side, I'm measuring from the floor to this pencil mark right here. So I'm 80 and 9/16 to this point here. So 80, 9/16. Now we'll do the same on this side, because you can't assume both sides are the same, because floors are always crooked, and sure enough, this is 80, a heavy half. So this, we'll cut him at 80.5. Oops, 80.5. So if you've watched some of my other videos, you've noticed that I like to use my measuring tape as my notepad. So especially when I'm doing casing, there's a method to the way I put it on. So I like to put the casing on the left, right on the right, and the top on the top. So there you go. I got my top measurement, my right measurement, and my left. The other thing we have to account for is the thickness of this jamb here, because this jamb has to be ripped. And if you were doing like a stain grade, if you were doing like an oak casing, a walnut, or whatever it is, Douglas fir, this would be different. This only applies to paint grade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from the mark to the wall. I'll subtract a 1/16 of an inch, and I'll caulk the rest. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this at 12-inch increments. So from the top. So I'll do 12, 24, 36, and so on. From those marks, I'll measure in my 3/16 of an inch. And then I'm going to take my number. So here we've got 2 1/8 inch, but again I'm going to take off a 1/16 of an inch more, so I've got 2 1/16. And I'll go to my second mark, and I've got 2 3/16 to the mark, but I'll cut him at 2 1/8. And you're going to repeat that every 12 inches right to the floor. Alright, so I've got all my final numbers, and it really sways in and out by, I'm plus or minus about 1/4 of an inch. So likely when the drywall was put in, this was a piece and this was a piece, and there's a joint here when they mudded it. And the joint is likely going to be a hump, as well as the top and the bottom. So that's exactly what's happening here. So my measurement comes out at the bottom, and it comes in the midpoint, and then it comes out at the light switch here, and then back in at the top. So, and let's go cut it. You'll notice that When the casing comes from the factory, you've got some like paint buildup and it's not a clean edge. So whenever you're installing casing, you got to trim both ends. So I start with the bottom, I trim him, and I measure from the bottom up to my miter. So let's do the piece on the right. So in the right piece, trim the bottom first. And I probably just took maybe 1/8 of an inch off the end. So I've got 80 and 9/16. I'm making my mark on the front edge, and we measured to the inside corner. So we're gonna cut on an angle like this, not up here obviously down here, but I want that blade to ride on that pencil mark, and usually I try to split the pencil line in half. So let's get cutting. I've got my top piece that I'm going to cut for the top of the door. Mine wants to be 23.5, and the way I measure that is I cut one miter first. So I've got one side cut on a 45 degree, and then I know I want 23.5. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my measuring tape, I'm going to bring it to the point, and I'm going to just pinch the tape on the casing, and I'm going to measure out not to 23.5 but to 33.5 because I've got it on 10 here. So I'll bring my tape along, make sure I'm still on 10, and I'll go to 33.5, and I'm on it. So you want to make sure that you're nice and square, and you bring this line right to the front edge. I'll double check that I'm 23.5, and I'm on the money. And there she is. Alright, so I've got my pieces cut, and if I had a regular doorway, I would just be ready to install. But because I've got to rip the one side, I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so we got the piece of casing from the right side, and if you remember, this piece is the one that's going to get ripped. So what we want to do is we want to transfer our 12-inch increments. So I've done the 12, and so 12, 24, and so on. And now we can transfer our marks. So from the top, I've got all my measurements here on the side, and at the top I've got 2 1/16. Next one's 2 1/8, and so on and so forth. So on a nice round profile like this, it's going to be a little hard to join the lines, but I'm just going to get a little straight edge. So I'm actually going to use a shim just because it's going to sit nice and it's not very thick. You could use a little torpedo level maybe or something like that. So let's marry up these lines. Alright, so we got all our marks now. Let's rip it on the table saw. We've got our piece ripped and nice clean cut. So what we're going to do now is cut the top piece as well, because it's going to be a little shorter on the right side. So our pieces line up like this in the corner, and what you just want to do is just take your pencil and just transfer this line right up here, and we're going to cut this little piece off. There we go. Alright, so I like to use a product called 2P10, and this is the activator. So this is not necessary. It comes in a kit. There's the aerosol can, and there's also a bottle. This is the competitor's make. It's cyanoacrylate. So you can also just use glue from like the dollar store or something like that, and you don't even need the activator. But let's use this for this video. So it's just regular crazy glue. And what you're going to want to do is put some on the one side, and don't be shy. Don't put it on your finger, and I like to get it close to that front edge. Just to speed up the process a little bit, I am going to use a little bit of the spray, and just a quick pass is all you need, and make sure you don't spray it near the glue. So then you're going to take your two pieces, line up your insides, make sure you're on a nice flat surface, and then pull towards you. And again, make sure it's nice and tight. And you're going to want to hold for 15-20 seconds. And there you go. Got a nice tight joint, nice clean, easy to paint. It's actually ready for paint. So let's do the other side. Right now we've got nice solid contact between our two pieces, and we're ready to install. So when you're transporting this thing, you're still gonna want to be careful. It's pretty solid, but if you bang it, it's gonna pop apart. I'm using 5/8 of an inch brad nails. So the material is pretty thin on the front edge. On the back edge, I'm actually going to be a little short. I'll have to get some longer brad nails, but just for the front edge, I'm going to get some 5/8 inch nails in there. Let's get this thing in its home. You might be ever so slightly off from the marks, so just split the difference and tack it in. So I like to start at the middle, and it's in. Then you're going to work your way out. So we've got some nice tight miters. I've got 2 brad nails supporting it on either side. Doing the same on this side. Nice clean line up against the wall, and you'll notice that the profile gets thinner, and then it comes back, it flares out again at the bottom. I need some caulking on the inside. The outside, I'll have to fix this, spackle the nail holes, cut a coat of paint. One side is done. Thanks for watching the video. I hope this helped you out. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for all the love along the way, and there's more videos to come. You can watch this, you can watch that, you can watch this, but don't forget, subscribe. Do it. Yeah. Just boop.